everybody. It's Jalen.
And I'm Cacie.
And you're watching Jalen and Cacie live chats. I know we said last week that Thursday is going to be our day, but guess what? It's Tuesday. So we already didn't stick to that.
It's a tea day, though.
It's a tea day, yeah. No, we realized our schedule, we have double booked ourselves, so we went ahead and said, okay, we
I don't
need to
know
do
how
Tuesday.
we became so busy all of a sudden. Like, this year just...
Yeah.
The year's almost over. Like, it is literally...
Oh, you're going to blink and it'll be over for
It's
sure.
over.
Yeah.
Like, it's over.
Our son's about to turn 2.
He's about to be 2 in about 3-ish weeks.
Exactly 30 days. 29 days. So yeah, that's what's going on in our lives. How about you guys? Let us know what you're doing. So I want to give you guys some technical stuff here. If you're in the comments, comment if you're watching live, and obviously if you're watching later. So we're learning how to watch the comments because I'll try to look like on my phone, but it doesn't always pop up for some reason. But it does pop up on our screen here, so I have to kind of like switch back and forth. So if you guys, because some people were talking last week and I didn't know it until after the live was over. So if you're talking, just keep doing that and we'll try to interact with y'all as we figure this whole thing out. So yeah. So today's topic is, we're talking about a couple different things today, but we're going to talk about mental health in marriage because mental health is important and mental health in marriage is important. But we're also going to use the time to sort of prep for the upcoming launch of our first ever course, Overcome the Spirit of Depression. Matter of fact, I have a thumbnail for you guys. For anyone who does not know, we've been talking about it on all our social networks. But yes, Overcome the Spirit of Depression, 6-week course starting this Saturday, July 23rd, 10 a.m. Eastern. So plug that into a time zone converter to find out when that is for you. And we'll still keep the archives up, but it's exclusive to our channel members. Okay. So if you've been watching since we've been doing the Summer of Jalen and Cacie, you know what our channel memberships are. And it's a way to support the YouTube channel.
And it gets you exclusive stuff as well. So
yes,
it's not just about supporting us, which is great, but it also allows you to get exclusive stuff. Also, because it takes resources and it takes time, effort to create these things. And there's so many more things to come ahead, and we're excited about that. So channel memberships are really cool.
And I had a whole thing ready to, well, first off, for a second, let me go back to us, our faces. I have a whole thing ready to, show you guys the how to join up with the channel and everything. And it just completely conked out on me right as we started going live. So, yeah, okay, I might not be able to show you that, but if I figure it out later, I'll show you guys. But basically, if you hit the join button right here beneath this video, it'll pop up a window and it'll show you the 2 tiers we have available right now. You have a tier that's $1.99 and one that's $9.99, and it's monthly, okay? So you pick one and that begins to charge you monthly through YouTube.
So no matter which tier that you have,
though,
you still have access
to the course. But if you look at the 2 tiers, it'll tell you what you get additional. So like in the $1.99 tier, you get you will get the member shout out. So shout out, for example, to Lindy Moyo and Jeremy Dixon, our 2 channel members currently.
Hey y'all.
You get that. You get access to there's a image, I forgot the name of it, the little banner thing that you get that lets you know that, hey, you are a channel member whenever you're in the comments. You can also use this custom emojis we have and all that. And then if you do the $9.99 tier, you get access to the private community tab where we'll chat with you guys one-on-one, kind of like being in a group chat with us. Also discounted merchandise, which we'll be launching soon, and things like that.
And the courses that we offer.
Yeah, so the courses, so that's what's different between the 2, but the courses are the same. The courses you get access to regardless of which tier you pick, because we want everybody to be able to get access to the courses. So again, this course is 6 weeks, starting Saturday. Every Saturday after that, I'm going live. And we'll be talking about overcoming depression, which is something that's close to my heart as someone who has struggled with that since I was a teenager. So we're actually going to touch on some of the topics I'll be tackling in that course today. So this is kind of a promo for the course.
I think I want to go ahead and just jump into it and try to define what's the difference between depression and stress.
Yep.
Because both of them can kind of have very similar symptoms, but stress and depression is very, very different. And I will say that extended or long-term stress can open up the door to depression.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important that we learn how to I don't want to say manage our stress, but learn how to relieve stress and how to deal with it properly so that we don't fall into these deep, dark depressions.
Yeah, no. And actually, so as we do this course, one thing we're going to, I'm still trying to get this thing ready for you guys, but anyway, no, I mean, we're going to keep working on it as we're going. It's going to be kind of free form, so just bear with me. I'm not ignoring you guys. I'm just working. I'm going to talk about stress. I'm going to talk about anxiety because it all goes together. And it's not just like, okay, well, I don't think I have depression. I haven't been diagnosed or anything, so I don't need this course. I'm going to talk about feeling overwhelmed, which is something that I think anybody has felt at any given moment in life. And especially a couple of years, people have dealt with different things. I was watching a sermon today, and it was a very interesting statistic that said that in 2020, during all the shutdowns and lockdowns, we all know there was heavy mental health decline for lots of people, children included. But it seemed like the one group of people, according to this study, that did not have that decline was regular church attenders, which is interesting. And there's a lot we can dig into there about having the Spirit of God within you. But I also want to talk about just the social aspect of having a community of people. And a lot of people lost that. And so when we're talking about mental health and marriage today, it's very important that you remain social with your spouse. And what does that mean? It's very possible to live with someone, to be married to someone, and not be sociable with them. Y'all can just kind of exist in the same household and not even be interacting with one another.
Yeah, because you can literally come home and y'all go to separate corners and you don't really meet up until it's time to talk about the bills or the kids and the occasional, if any at all, sexual encounters. And then that's pretty much it. And like you said, you just kind of exist. So you don't really have a social marriage between each other, and that can be very dangerous.
Yeah, so what does that look like? I think for me, and we're going to use examples from us, but we've gone through different bouts of trials and situations since we've been married, and there have been times where things have been extremely stressful. And depending on how strong our marriage was, dictated how we responded to those stressful situations, And sometimes there were things that we dealt with that were individual, one to the other. We'll talk about that, how you support your spouse while they're going through something that's kind of specific to them. Sometimes it's a family issue or just something that just targets them specifically, and you got to be there to support them. But the strength of our marriage, you could tell how tight we were based on when we were going through those things, that we were at each other's throats or we were supporting each other. And what you do in the peaceful times and the easy times is kind of going to dictate how you're going to respond in those hard times. And so that's why it's important to have a system. If you watched us for any period of time, we're really big on having a schedule, so to speak, a system of how you interact. It's not about being so strict that, okay, this day of the week, every day, the rest of our lives, we do this. This day of the week, that's not realistic because your life changes. But having a consistency of, we don't go this long without talking. We spend this amount of time at least every day or these many days a week talking. Yeah, having structure.
It's called structure. And yes, there will be ebbs and flows depending on the season you're in. But you got to have a standard and a structure that you stick by so that way you are aware when something wrong is happening.
Yeah.
Some people live so freeform and don't really have that don't really recognize when stuff is going wrong in their relationship until it is too late. And then it's almost irreversible, and you don't want that. It's almost like, back in the day, I don't know if schools still do this because it's been a long time since I've been in school, but I'm pretty sure they do because I figured it's mandatory. But, you have fire drills, and now you not only have fire drills, but they have drills for when there are bomb threats or shootings, things like that. But the reason why we have those things in our school system is because, and we practice those things, like it will be random, you don't know when it's going to happen. It's because you don't want to wait until you're in a high stress situation and then you don't know how to respond.
Exactly.
I was thinking about that today. What was I doing today? And I was like, I don't know. I was driving and I was thinking, what if something will happen? Would I be able to respond the right way?
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking about a memory. Me and my siblings, we had just moved to this neighborhood and we had our bikes and we was riding in a particular area. We hadn't ridden there before. We just moved this neighborhood. And we got to a certain area in the neighborhood and we heard a dog bark. We didn't even see the dog, but we heard this dog bark and all of us freaked out. My brother went one way. I mean, he I think he rode through a person's backyard. All I remember is it was a sense of panic that we had. And I can remember feeling like this confusion in my head. And I didn't know how to respond. All I know is I just wanted to get out. Even though I hadn't seen the dog, I just heard the dog. And I started panicking. And we all panicked. And we were just riding our bikes just erratic, you know? And for certain, I don't know why that memory came up in my head, but it just did. But in light of what we're talking about, when you don't have a plan or you haven't really, you don't know how to respond in stressful or high times, you will literally begin to act erratic. And you would just don't know what to do. It's almost like you just go blind, you know? So that's kind of what happens in marriages. You know, we just start acting erratic because we don't have a system of how we talk to each other, how we handle things. We don't have a baseline. Like, we don't have a base. Okay, no matter how crazy it gets, this is the base. So we always come back to a neutral zone so that we can refocus, regroup, and get focused. And that's something that we need to really have in marriages.
So some of the examples of that would be, we always talk about communication, so I won't spend a lot of time on that, but you got to have someone you can talk to about your feelings. And you got to talk enough consistently that you feel comfortable sharing your feelings when a difficult situation comes up and you feel safe and comfortable with your spouse. But we talk about communication all the time, so I won't spend too much more time talking about that. But one thing that I think we kind of just take for granted is just little activities of fun with each other or with family that's explicitly social. So it's fine to sit down and watch TV together, but I'm not talking about that kind of thing that's more passive, where you're kind of you could just do that alone. It's great to do it with your spouse, but it'll make no difference. You could do it by yourself. I'm talking about things that require interaction. Something that we like to do every now and then randomly before we, go to bed, we'll crack out the Uno cards and play a couple games of Uno, okay? That's requiring interaction. That's requiring you socialize with your spouse. And you can do this with your family if you have a larger family.
Exercising together. That's
yes,
something
exercise
we've been doing
is good.
for the past couple of years. We've done it a long time over the course of our relationship. But recently we got back into the gym and we love working out together. Now, we're not always able to because of our schedule, but that's one way that we socialize with one another outside of home. That's not talking about bills or kids or anything else, but it's our way of socializing, supporting each other. It's also a great stress reliever when you're in the gym working out.
Yeah, so, exercise is good for you. So just in general, that's good for your mental health.
But activities that get you moving and sort of team building, all those things are really helpful.
Go for walks. We like doing walks. We've pretty much always done that over the course of our marriage, just taking walks together. Now we take our son with us. That's just a great way because this time you can talk, this time you can just enjoy nature. Being outdoors is really good. Now, everyone's different. Some people are really extreme outdoor people, like they just would live outdoors. Other people like being homebodies. That's fine, but everyone needs to spend time outdoors with real, actual oxygen going in and out of your lungs and some sun on your skin. It's good. We finally, after being in our house for a couple of years, got our patio together the way we wanted it. And now we can actually sit back there and my son can run around in a circle and play with bubbles. And I can just sit in a chair and just sit outside and look outside and look at nature, look at cars drive by. And it just feels good. It feels better than sitting inside. So it's just it's something very simple. It's not super complicated. It's not expensive in any way. It's just something that you would normally do, but something that's more energizing, that feels better and it's good for your body. And spending that time together, y'all can just sit outside, watch the sunset, or just the sky get dark if you're not facing the sun, whatever. The point is you're spending time together and you're socializing in some way. So it's good to take control of your life. You may have jobs, you may be busy, sometimes you work different shifts, but you've got to find some way to spend time together. And if your life does not allow you to do that, then it's time to change your life.
It surely is.
It is. It's time to do something different. If the job just prevents it, start looking for a new job.
Back when we was really struggling financially, I think we've mentioned this before, but you was like, well, I'll get a second job, and it's like, I can get a second job. It's like, no, we can't. We can't do it. No. I'd rather be broke and have a happy marriage than trying to have all this money, trying to make ends meet. We either going to trust God or we're just going to not. We're going to fail. Because the stress of one not being together for long periods of time. Can you just imagine? I can't even imagine.
Oh yeah. It would have destroyed us.
It would have destroyed us completely.
And let's talk about that, because this is how you're really getting deep into your mental health. We're going to get spiritual here for a moment. Because you made mention of you'd rather be broke and be happy. And some people will say, well, I can't be broke and happy. And that's the cause of all of our problems. No, it's not. The cause of your problem is your love of money.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, trust me, if you listen to us, you know we believe in financial prosperity. So this has nothing to do with that. But it does have to do with how you pursue money, because you were never meant to pursue money. And the Bible is strictly clear on those who pursue money and desire and will to be rich through their own willpower, through their own chasing of it, instead of Proverbs 22, the blessing of the Lord making you rich, adding no sorrow with it, pierce themselves through with many sorrows. So the stress that you might be experiencing is not because you're broke, but it's because you're chasing after money.
Yeah.
And you're not trusting Jehovah Jireh, God, your provider, to be your provision for you. And that's what we had to do. Yes, life was stressful when there wasn't a lot to make ends meet. But when we decided, I have strict memories of us not having a lot, but enjoying each other's time and enjoying each other and spending evenings together, because I did my day job and then I came home and we spent time together. And I wasn't running out the house to do a second job trying to get money. And I realized I'm so glad we did it that way, because now we're living in the harvest of those seeds we sowed then.
Because I don't care how hard you work, them extra hours, those few dollars are not going to make a big difference in your life. And especially if you're sick and if you're dead. Like, our health became very important to us a couple of years ago. And I'm so glad that we started to prioritize our health, because it's made a big difference in our relationship, from a physical side to a mental side to just everything. And I like being active. Like, I really do. And so we had to decide we're going to invest in our physical health. And it took money to do that. It took us trusting God to do that. And we're better for it. But it also created opportunities for us to spend more time together. Yeah. So instead of trying to think of ways to make more money, hustle and grind, I'm trying to leave a legacy for my children. No, the legacy I'm trying to leave for my children is two people that trust God, who know how to de-stress. They know how to handle themselves emotionally. They know how to communicate. They love one another. And what you see in front of you is real.
Exactly.
I don't want my children getting of an age and see that what they really saw as a kid was fake. Because that's normally what happens. And that means so much to us to have a strong marriage and a strong relationship that we would deny everything else. And I literally mean everything else. And everyone else to have a healthy marriage. Because we know from that, you can prosper. From that comes health and wealth.
The scripture says, I wish that you be in health, prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. So your prosperity and your health are dependent on the status of your soul. And what does your soul consist of? Your mind, your will, and your emotions. So we're talking about mental health, right? So your mind and your emotions are out of whack. Everything that you're chasing is not going to work. And so you have to stop chasing things, stop chasing material things. You can't serve two masters. And you're going to have to do this God's way. And in God's way, you're prospering your soul first before everything else does. All right. And so I want to talk about, you mentioned stress, because, and I'll talk a lot about depression in the course that's starting this Saturday. But I really want to talk about stress, because that's something that everybody is dealing with on some level. And a lot of us don't know how to handle stress. And I learned in my life that I did not know how to handle stress. And that actually probably was the root of allowing myself to get into depression. Because what happens is you get stressed out about something, you let it weigh on your mind, and you think it through. And I'm a thinker, so you're just thinking it and thinking it and thinking it and thinking it. And then you're grieving the situation because you're imagining all the possibilities, the negative possibilities of the situation that you're trying to figure out on your own. I did that all the time when it came to our finances. And so I was constantly trying to figure out how to fix it. And no matter what plan or idea I came up with, I realized I could not fix it. And so you come to a crossroads. Either you sink into depression because you realize it's hopeless and nothing that I can do, and then now you're depressed, and now you're unhappy, and now you're not good for your family, and you're broke on top of that, right? Okay. Or you do what Jesus said to do and cast the burden onto him and take on his burden, which is easy and light, all right? And let the Lord take your cares, because he takes care for you. And so when I decided to do that, I had to make a rule in myself that I would not allow myself to think about things. And that sounds strange, but it was like, if I can't fix it, I've already thought this through a million times, no, I can't fix it, then I'm not going to allow myself to think about the situation anymore. I'm going to quite literally ignore it. And it feels extremely irresponsible at first when you have that mindset, when you take that on. But you also realize that it's the most responsible thing you can do, because the creator of the universe is offering to take care of your situation, but you're trying to look over his shoulder to figure out how you can do it yourself. Okay, that's irresponsible. That's stupid. That's silly. All right, so you got to make a decision on who you're going to be. Do you believe God is who he says he is, or you don't? And that's the situation that I had to come to, and the decision that I had to make. All right, and so stressors are natural things in life.
Oh, yeah,
there are things that come that bring a stress response in you, and that's not always negative. What's negative is whether or not you respond to it, the way you respond to it. Do you respond anxiously? Do you allow yourself to get into anxiety?
Well, it's the same difference if it's storming outside, but inside we can weather that storm because we're resting in our home.
Yeah.
We have safety in our home. Our doors are closed, the windows are closed, so we know the elements aren't to us. Yeah, it's raining.
Yeah.
But if I was standing outside the door of my home, oh yeah, I'm gonna be mad. I'm gonna be pissed off because I'm wet. You know, it's windy. There's possible I can get hit by lightning. I mean, it's a lot of stuff. Leaves, rocks flying around. Like it's torturous out there. And so I'm shivering because I'm cold. So there's a whole lot of stress to be outside of, and I'm using this as an analogy, to be outside of the peace of God. So one thing for me, as we was going through our toughest times, and even when you were dealing with your stuff, I knew I couldn't help you the way that you need to be helped.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to trust God and rest and have the peace that everything was going to work out for my good. And that took a lot for me, because anybody knows me well, I am a problem solver like you are in that way. I try to fix. I want to make sure that everything is good, happy, and to the point where I would deny myself the opportunity to even process certain things, because I'm always thinking about, I just want to get back to normal, or I want to get back to, you know, how things used to be, and not being able to rest in God and say, this is where we are now, but we're okay.
Yeah.
And I know the last couple of years, 2020 especially, was like a flash year for me, where I had a flash lesson in how to trust God, because I literally couldn't do anything about nothing that was going on around me.
Yeah.
I was pregnant with our son, having our first kid, and I was excited, and I love being pregnant. I was excited to have my son. And then COVID came, mandatory stuff shut down. I closed my business 2020. We moved. It was moving in our home. My father passed away, and that for me was like, I got stuck for a minute. But it was a weird time of a lesson for me, because I have always presented myself as the strong one and had answers and things like that. But for the first time, I had to learn to put my guard down and ask for help. And I'm so thankful that I have some amazing friends that I consider family, that I remember my father was right towards the end before he passed. And I remember my son was, 3.5 months old. And so, you know, I'm a new mom. I'm going through it. My hormones are everywhere. We just moved to our home, and there is literally boxes from ceiling to ceiling. Like, did I say that right? From floor to ceiling.
Floor to ceiling.
Wall to wall. It was boxes everywhere, okay? And, you know, I'm a person that I had this grand idea that I'm going to get into this house, I'm going to decorate it, I'm going to get everything unpacked, and it's going to be done in like 2 months. No. It literally took us about 6-8 months to start unpacking boxes. I'm serious. I had to sit with this, right? But anyway, I remember there was a day I woke up and you was at work, and I said, babe, I don't know if I can do this day. I said, I'm just feeling, I mean, it was heavy on me. And I remember calling my girls, and I was like, can y'all just come and sit with me? Because I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. I'm about to fall apart. Like, I felt fragile for the first time. I have never felt that fragile in my entire life. And I can almost cry about it now, because for me, that might have seemed like a weak moment, but it also was a growth moment for me too, because I realized that I could not handle it on my own. I wasn't strong enough, and I needed help, and I cried out for help. And I'm glad that I did, because it came, and we just sat around, and we just talked, and we prayed for one another, and it was just like the thing that I needed. A lot of times we fall into these deep holes of depression and sadness because we isolate and we don't open up. And I know sometimes it's scary to open up because we don't know who we can trust, or we think that the devil makes us think that what we're thinking and how we're feeling is so strange and so weird. There is nothing so strange and so weird. There's nothing new under the sun. Okay, if you thought it, somebody else has to. I promise you. And you're not alone. So if you ever find yourself in a deep, dark place and you need help, you go find help however you can. You call somebody. There's hotlines out there. There's church ministries that their lines are open 24/7. You go to your neighbor, find somebody. Don't sit there. You never know. Just saying help. Yeah. It will open doors to you.
Well, you got to understand something. You got to understand depression it feeds on itself. It's self-perpetuating, creates a void, and it feeds on itself. And so it's interesting that all the things that depression makes you not want to do are the things that would actually help you. You know what I'm saying? So like depression makes you want to isolate and not be social. Depression makes you lose interest in the hobbies and things that make you happy. At the same time, all those things, the things that make you happy, being social, being with people, would bring you out. And I think that's the trick here that you got to understand when it comes to depression, stress, anxiety, like that. You're waiting to feel better because like I am depressed right now. I am stressed out right now. I feel anxious right now. And so it's preventing me from doing these things. When I feel better, I'll start doing these things again. I'll start socializing again. I'll take up my hobbies again. No, it's on its way to kill you before you ever get there. You have to, it's not going to go away on its own. You have to push against it. And I'm going to go deep in those 6 weeks in this course starting on Saturday on spiritual and practical ways to do those things, who to reach out to, all of that, because it's very important you get that right. But what I'm saying is you can't wait for yourself to feel normal again to start doing. And sometimes these things come in waves and cycles. And so you're in a down zone. And then once down zone's over, you feel better. It's okay, I'm good now. And then you act like it's not going to come down again. If you've been through this cycle enough times, you know there's another downturn coming. So you need to start arming yourself and realize, okay, how do I get myself out of this ridiculous cycle? You know what I'm saying? So that's going to be vitally important.
Yeah, because if you're waiting for things to be normal again, to feel better, what if normal never happens? I mean, that was the key word from 2020. You know, we wait to get normal again. It's not normal. This is how things are right now, and probably will be for the foreseeable future. My Father is in heaven. He's not coming back. He's not ever going to return again. And it took me a while to really accept that. As spiritual as I am, and as long as I've been around the Word, and I know death is a natural process of life, and I know that nobody lives forever in this condition on this side of life. But when it happens, it's like, wait a minute. It's weird. Like, it really is. And I mean, it took time. And there are still times. I communicate with my husband. There are still times where I miss my dad every day. I really do. And there are some days where I'm a little more emotional about it than others. And I make sure that I communicate that with him that, babe, I'm feeling sad today. And sometimes, especially around the holiday, because he died 2 days before Christmas, 2 days before Christmas, when his birthday comes, Father's Day, stuff like that, things that I'm used to interacting with him. And, so I have to be on guard about that. So you can't let your guard down. Spiritually, you can't. You got to know when those triggers happen. So I have to be on guard. And I can't allow myself to isolate and get into myself. I have to communicate and open up. And especially with Jalen, I try to make sure I let him know where I'm at emotionally so that he know how to help me and I can get help. And of course, worship is always my go-to. Praise and worship is always a good thing to start with. Sometimes you don't know what to say. You need to put on a song and just get into the presence of God.
Look, we've talked about it before, and one day we'll just make a video about it, but we had a particularly stressful first half of this year, and we handled it better than we ever have because we've been working on these principles for a few years. So I'm going to enjoy sharing that testimony now, being on the other side of that and how this works. But we had a lot of worship during that time, and I did a lot of solo worship, and there were times when you're just in tears on your face because of the situation, but you're worshiping the Lord. And even, and I will say this, even letting out the emotion through tears or things like that, there's a certain relief that comes with that. I've done research on this before, but there's certain chemicals that crying releases that actually make you feel better or the kind of thing. So there's even a key to that too, of letting that out, which is why you gotta have a spouse you can be safe with. And so that you can have someone that your ally, your partner to share these things with. And when you have a spouse that is going through something, like when Cacie's father passed, it affected me, but it affected her in a whole different way, obviously. And so you've got to know and be prepared to help. And I was ready, okay, whatever it is that she needs, I'm ready to shift. When you're in marriage, you have needs and you have expectations and you have the roles that you two play unto one another. But when your spouse is going through something, you got to be ready to amend that and not require as much of them as they go through this season. And you got to be prepared to play that role into your spouse.
You got to be sensitive. You got to really be sensitive to the voice of God, because the worst thing that could ever happen is a spouse tell the other spouse, get over it.
Oh, yeah.
It's not that bad. You know better. Because trust and believe, your spouse has already said that to themselves.
Yeah.
Well, you never did that. You were always very patient with me. And even though I felt like I'm not being a good wife right now, I'm barely hanging on to being a mom to this newborn. And think about life still goes on. I still had responsibilities. I still had to, I'm the praise and worship leader in our church. They had to lead worship and all these things. And I was going through, it was a big shift in our ministry, just a whole lot of stuff going on at one time. And I still had to move forward, but you allowed me to sit with myself and sit through this moment and go through it. And I'm grateful for that. But you never want to tell your spouse how they ought to feel about something, because you're not them. And if you never had a great loss in your life, you just don't know what that feels like.
And never try to fix your spouse's situation, just support. Because if you're a fixer, and I was one of those types of fix, but I've learned a lot better now to just sit and listen. And you don't always have the answer immediately, but don't immediately start trying to figure out, like, okay, let's try to problem solve. Just listen. Sometimes you got to listen over the course of several days or several sessions of going over the same topic, and let the Holy Spirit minister into you both the answer in the midst of one of those discussions. Or sometimes when you're apart, the Lord will minister to you separately. So just be ready to support, not try to solve. Support, not solve. There you go. Remember that if you remember anything. And I believe those are some of the keys to, or principles to, a mentally healthy marriage. You got to understand the importance of the prosperity of your soul first before anything else in your life. And understand that if you're not individually sound, you're not going to be able to pour into anyone else. And so you've got to purposefully take on an attitude in your marriage of pouring into each other that social aspect, that social time, taking that time to be together, and not just have a very passive entertainment marriage where everything that y'all do together is very passive, just the watching of TV or being on your phones. We were talking about that last week. All that. Do something that requires your interaction together. That's what brought you together in the first place. And people need people. So don't just exist in a household with someone that's not your people.
That's right.
So let us know in the chat, have you been through some stressful or depressing times in your relationship, and how'd you handle it? And how'd you support your spouse if they were the one going through it? We want to hear it and talk about that a little bit. I finally got this thing to work, so I'm going to show you guys how to do the join thing. I think it's pretty simple, but you don't take anything for granted. So this is just an example of what it would look like going to a browser window, and you'll see a join button. Usually there'll be a subscribe button right next to it, but you'll see the join button here. You click that, and that's what you'll see. And it'll play a video advertising the course, but you can see the 2 tiers you can choose. You become one of our vision bearers. You get these cool badges next to your name. That's what I was trying to say before, a badge. I kept saying the wrong word. So a badge next to your name in the chat whenever you're on any of our live chats. You can use these cool emojis of us on our videos. Access to courses. Like we said, everybody gets access to courses, and we'll shout you out as being a member in our videos. If you choose the Vision Bearer Plus, $9.99 a month, you get everything from the previous levels, discounted merchandise, access to the members only chat, like a group chat with us here on the YouTube channel, and again, access to the courses. So everybody gets access to the courses no matter what you pick. So the 2 options available to you. And I want to say this, I mean, that anybody has this mindset, but I do want to say, if you're thinking, hey, I don't want to do a monthly commitment to something, it's clear. I mean, I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm not really in this for the money, so I don't mind saying this. You can start it and you can cancel it. So if you're trying to start it, I'm serious, like if you want to start it, and don't be offended, if you want to start it so you can get access to the course so that you can watch it and everything, and it's like, okay, I can't commit to monthly, I just don't have it like that right now, then you can cancel it, that's fine. I want you to get access to the course, I really do. And if you stay on, then you get lifetime access because it's going to stay on the playlist, you know, and you can obviously do that. And we're releasing it weekly over the course of 6 weeks. But then after that, you can just watch it back as much as you want and, you know, share it with someone through your YouTube channel. But if you had to cancel it, you know, that's something that you could do. We'll continue to do courses, so there'll always be something that be interested to you. This one may not be something for you, but the next one will be, and then you can sign up then. But just want to make that clear and make that available to you that that's how we're doing it. Channel members exclusive. You get the perks, but you get access to the course just no matter what you choose. So again, it starts this Saturday, July 23rd. Overcome the spirit of depression. We're going to be talking about anxiety, stress, feeling overwhelmed, 10 a.m. Eastern, starting this Saturday. And I'm going to be the one leading the course. You can pop in at all? You might pop in.
I don't know. I don't want to
pop in. I'll be the one leading in. I'm going to go into some detail on some stuff in my life that I've dealt with over the years since I was a teenager. And I've touched on it before on this channel, but here, that's another reason for doing it, the channel membership. You kind of make it private so that you can go in depth and talk about some things and ask people questions and they can ask them back. And I think it's going to be a really good, a lot of fun, very helpful for a lot of people. You're going to get a lot of resources on what to do next if you're dealing with some of these things. So that's that. So thank you guys for watching. We love you very, very much. Thank you for tuning in. Sign up, become a channel member. If you got any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll be sure to hop back on and answer them for you. But that's it. We love you guys. Thank you. And we'll see you next time.